This is our Wednesday night broadcast. We're only going to be doing our Wednesday nights from time to time if something exciting pops in. Everybody's busy with their springtime planting and summer's coming up. We covered all our basic courses, and those are finished, so you guys can always continue your studies with the archives and the study links and all the information over there at the packalliance.us website. So no reason for us to really be here unless from time to time there is some occasional news that pops up, which of course then we will share with you. And we're here tonight. We have Jesse with us. How you doing, kiddo?
I had myself muted, sorry.
Oh, all good.
I'm doing good. How are you?
Oh, doing great. Had a little bit of a freeze last night there and covered the plants the best I could. And looking so-so, But it looks like they're going to kick back. And it was our last of our cold front that was coming through. The rest of the week, each night gets warmer and warmer and warmer as we head into our summertime down here in Florida. So I'm out of the woods, I think. Winds have finally died down. We're real calm today. Some good sunshine came in, which is great for the plants. Went out there and watered early this afternoon so that it would get full sun and give them a chance to warm up some from last night's chill that they got. And I think we're good to go. We'll just see what happens. That's all we can do. The rest is in the Mother Nature's hands, if you will.
We were doing really good, not last week, but the week before. It was like it is now. It was in the 50s and 60s because, I live in the mountains. And it was nice. It was really, really nice. And then sometime last week, like middle of the week, Wednesday through Sunday, don't do that, baby. We got another cold front, and it snowed again for like 2 to 3 days. And then Sunday, Monday, it warmed up, and it's been warm for all week. So I'm hoping spring's finally here in Eastern Oregon. That would make me so happy.
Yay! Yeah, I was watching the reports there on the Weather Channel throughout the Union here and see what was going on. And it looks like everybody's finally coming out of it. There's still a couple of more, snow and gatherings and whatnot up around the Great Lakes. They're going to see a little bit more yet, but for the most part, I think we're all finally coming out of this cold fronts that have been running through in this crazy winter that we've had. So if all goes well, we should be seeing the tail end of it everywhere across the Union so everyone can get caught up on their springtime plantings and get their produce in the ground. Hope everybody has had a chance to listen to last week's show. We did a lot on tomatoes, and we had Ed from down on the farm join us and brought us some fantastic information and got to hear what I've been doing over here by the house. And then Thursday we touched a little bit more on that. Not too much going on, folks. We do come into our summer season here, so as we get into that, everybody will be enjoying their barbecues and be busy with their kids being out of school and all that good stuff. So we don't take up too much of your time. We let you kind of back off here in the summertime. If any questions come up or a special show or information, because we're always keeping an eye on what they're doing. Of course, we will bring that information to you. But it's always best to just catch us over there in the archives because you never know. Some weeks we'll be skipping, some weeks we won't. Because if there isn't much happening, sometimes we just might pop on, especially in the summer, and play music. Have a music dance party, which is always a lot of fun here on Freedom Reigns and Community and the Constitution. And as always, though, if anybody has any problems with their studies or has any questions, please feel free to get those questions to me either through email, my Skype. I have many a Skype room set up for studying of the TRA. We're over there on Facebook. We're kind of everywhere. Plus the Freedom Reigns chat room is always open as well. So from time to time I will pop in there, especially on our regular schedule nights, and see if anybody's in there with any questions and comments. And since it only takes a few minutes to schedule a show and get it on the air, if there's a lot of activity that day, we can definitely do that. But we don't have to go too crazy. Like I said, it's not much happening out there right now. Everybody's coming out of that winter, entering into spring, and then into the summer phases. Anything on your mind tonight, Jess? I do have a couple of things we're going to cover. We may even just have a short show tonight. Anything on your mind that's come up for the last week or so?
As far as I know right now, no. I am doing that research like I told you I was going to do. I didn't do it last week because I was focused on taxes, trying to get those done, those stupid, evil, freaking things that we shouldn't have to do. And then, like I told you, I got my daughter coming next week, so I'm trying to get my house done for that and everything else. So I'm not going to, I'll take care of the stuff that you, Jose, and I had talked about this week and part of next week before next Thursday's show. So other than that, that's the only thing that's on my mind is the research for that, and then getting my house ready for picking up my daughter.
Excellent. Yeah, folks, next Thursday, not tomorrow, but next Thursday, Jessie will be here with us. She's going to share with us a whole bunch of information on the art of bows and arrows and all kinds of great information, how to even make your own bow and whatnot. So it's going to be hopefully a fun, informative time, and we'll be here next week with that information, God willing, and all goes well. There's a lot going on in the news. With no matter where I look, everybody's talking about the same topic, and we're going to cover the basics of that tonight. Shouldn't take us too long, but in the process of doing my paper and research for tonight's show, I also came across this one, and I don't know how this one managed to slip by me. Me, Mr. Big C-SPAN, watching what they do. And this news article came across my desk, and I was like, man, how did I miss this one? And it's titled Monsanto Protection Act. It slipped silently through U.S. Congress. The U.S. House of Representatives quietly passed a last-minute addition to the Agricultural Appropriations Bill for 2013 last week, including a provision protecting genetically modified seeds from litigation in the face of health risk. The rider, which is officially known as the Farmer Assurance Provision, has been derided by opponents of biotech lobbying as the Monsanto Protection Act, as it would strip federal courts of the authority to immediately halt the planting and sale of GMO seed crop regardless of any consumer health concerns. Don't you just love this, folks? The way they just slip shit in. They don't even vote on it, and you're going to find about that in a minute. And how evil this company is. Now you can't even, the government can't even go after them no matter what it does to us, no matter how bad it is, how evil the corporation is, how they're poisoning us, how they destroyed farmers' crops with this crap. It's just evil all the way around, and it never ends. And now they got this damn thing snuck into a bill. It's just not right, folks, and it's time to get active here. It's time to stop buying anything that has to do with Monsanto and Roundup and all these other, it's all owned and run and operated by Monsanto. We need to send a message, and how you do that is with your pocketbook, folks. Simply stop buying their crap. The more people that stop buying it, the more quicker and readily they're going to get that message. Hey, we don't want this. Countries from all over the globe has outlawed Monsanto products and seeds. All right, Monsanto tried to pull a couple of fast ones with some of the smaller countries thinking they were going to get away with it. Ha ha! They got put in their place big time. But yeah, if you simply look up that article, you can read over the whole thing. It's not really that long, but it's definitely worth reading and seeing what's going on. If you take a look even at the Washington Times points out the provision's success is viewed by many as a victory by companies like Syngenta Corp, Cargill, Monsanto, and affiliated PACs that have donated $7.5 million to members of Congress since 2009, and $372,000 to members of the Senate Appropriations Committee. It remains unclear whether the bill's 6-month expiration means that the provision will be short-lived. Regardless, Food Democracy now has begun a campaign calling on U.S. President Barack Obama to veto the continuing resolution spending bill, which seems unlikely as H.R. 933 includes a sweeping amount of government funding. Anyway, they sneak this stuff in there thinking the regular people aren't going to pick up on it, but more and more people are becoming aware of how evil this corporation is and this government is, that it's come to the point where not only me, but so many of you, which are finally getting wise to this and bringing these type of things to the attention. So it's great. What is PAC? It just says PAC on it. I'm not sure. It's just probably what they're talking about as far as an association group. It's not at my PAC. It's not our PAC here as far as the People's Awareness Coalition. That's something totally different. It's a word that they use, I would assume, as the, and it's an assumption on my part, of course. It's just a group of companies that are all owned by the same people, the same elitists, so on and so forth. They're a little pack, if you will, and they're the ones who, I guess, get into the political agenda of things. But yeah, it's I didn't read. I just got so sick after going over it that when I just gave you guys the highlights. You can go and do further research on it if you like. But as we've all known and are sick and tired of hearing about how evil it is, and the bottom line, folks, is the only way to fight this madness and this evil is quite simply with your pocketbook. That's the only thing they understand is money. All right, they spend millions upon millions, $7.5 million alone in the contributions to that campaign there, and that's what lobbyists do. You know, they get together, they lobby, and they, spend all this money to Congress, which are supposed to be protecting us. Yeah, right. Hello. They haven't done that since the 1700s, but that's another story. The only way, and the only thing that these people listen to, is the pocketbook. Same thing with Walmart, folks. Start shopping at moms and pops, and more people are doing that because they're just fed up with the bullshit. If you look today, there's tons of articles out there on Walmart and how poorly they're doing, how people have moved away from Walmart. They went and laid off all these employees, so the employees they do have are doing multiple jobs. They don't keep enough registers open. You run in a Walmart, it takes you forever. You have to stand in line, even if it's just one item or two items you're getting. You may get stuck in that damn line for 5 to 10 people deep. My Walmart, one day, it was so bad, people just had stopped going there. I happened to swing in there. I forgot what I went to get. Something real quick. Ran in to get one or two items real quick. Walked in, and they were setting up where you used to have all the express 10 items or less or 20 items or less type registers, and they put in a whole self-service, self-checkout section, to try to compensate for the lack of employees they have actually on the registers. Stock is not being put on the shelves. They're just clogging the aisles everywhere. It's not that the stock isn't in the store. They don't have the people to get it out to the floor. That's what most of the articles are talking about. Quite frankly, it's about time that people woke it up and got away from the big corporations, Walmart being one of those, especially. There's nothing wrong with the Walmart idea, if you will. However, when it gets to the point that they're so big, and it's so too big to fail, have we heard that before? Okay, with the bailouts and all the other garbage out there. And every time one of these big places open up and come into your area, one more nail in the coffin of Main Street, if you will. It destroys what this country union was founded on. The mom and pop store, the your local butchers, your local hardware stores, and the list goes on and on and on. Every time one of these big conglomerates, corporations move in, yeah, it seems like it's great on the surface. You go in, you can get cheap products, cheap prices. Of course, you get what you pay for, folks. Don't forget about that. It's filled with nothing but a ton of products from China or somewhere else. You're just buying garbage. Don't last more than a couple of weeks most of the time. It's just junk on top of junk. Okay? And here we are, a big union of, consumers instead of producers anymore. And people are afraid to get their hands dirty. Well, that's changing because the economy's so friggin' bad and the prices are going through the roof that you can't even afford to feed yourself anymore. So if you ain't got that crop going yet, that garden going to feed yourself, folks, yeah, sorry, it ain't going to be too much longer before that weight is going to be felt upon your shoulder. And then by then, remember, it takes a few weeks before you can get anything edible and to grow out of your garden. So you very well can be very, very hungry just waiting for your crops to grow because you simply cannot afford to buy anything from the store. Just keep those couple of things in mind. Anyway, the big talk around everywhere because of the Supreme Court and this whole gay marriage and, marriage on a whole. I don't care if it's regular marriage. I don't care if it's a gay and lesbian marriage, a heterosexual. It doesn't matter. Okay, what I'm going to share with you tonight. We're going to take a short break before we do that. But what I'm going to share with you is an eye-opener for anyone. And by the time we're done, and it ain't going to take us that long, folks, but by the time we're done, whether you're heterosexual, gay or lesbian or other, alien, UFO, whatever you may be, okay, you would have to be crazy to even consider going to get a marriage license. We have a couple of callers on the board. If you're just listening, that's great. We thank you for joining us this evening. If you want to get on air and you have a question or a comment, please hit the number 1 on your pound sign, on your keyboard or your phone, however you may be listening, so we know you would like to get on air. And we check back on the board and the other chat rooms. And those of us who are joining in the other chat rooms, we thank you as well for being here tonight. Jesse, did you get that document I just sent you?
I think I did, darling. Hang on, let me check.
Alrighty.
Yeah, it says open file. I guess I did.
There you go. All right. It's something I wrote up this morning with all that was going on. It's been going on for a couple of weeks now. Actually, I've been discussing this with others and helping them from time to time to understand that within our Facebook pages and groups and forums that we have here at the People's Awareness Coalition. And I titled it Marriage. To license or not to license? That is the question. A little pun on Shakespeare there. Yeah, I couldn't resist. I'm a pretty big fan of Shakespeare, so I was like, yep, couldn't resist. Yep, that's what I titled it. Anyhow.
It's not coming up. I have to download something first, which is like really stupid. I'm on my new laptop I just bought, so I have to download something. So I don't have it yet. I'm sorry.
Oh, no worries. Not a biggie. It's something you can read later. Yeah, it's because it's done in a Word document. I didn't save it as a standard text. It's probably saved as a Word. So if you don't have Word on your laptop or the current version or whatever it may be, that's why it's asking you to download something.
Okay.
But that's up to you.
I'm on my gaming machine right now, and I haven't had a chance to get over to my other machine because, like I said, I got to go pick up the boyfriend here in about 5 minutes. So I'll go ahead and listen in to you, Doc. Go ahead, honey.
All righty, dear. Yeah, and be safe out there while you go travel. And
I will. Thank you.
You're welcome. We're just gonna blow through this. It's not that long. I'll read this over, give you my highlights on it, and then if there's no questions or comments, we're gonna call it an early night. So let's continue here. Marriage, to license or not to license? That is the question. Many are discussing the issues of same-sex marriage. However, like with many things in law, it's misunderstood. By the time you finish reading this article, There will no longer be a single person in any right mind will ever want to get a license to marry. This goes for all, no matter sexual preference. Picking up somebody in the background. Is that you, kiddo? There we
I
go.
just muted myself. Sorry about that.
No problem. I'm not sure if it was you or if it was a relay kicking back into my headphone here, which is possible as well. Anyway, today currently 9 states, countries within the Union that recognize same-sex marriage and have amended their local constitutions. Now, this is not a big thing, as many know. This is not a bad thing. As many know, citizens without status have no access to their true and proper constitution as it represents the republic or common law. Since the beginning of the Union, we have had what is referred to as the common law marriage, and this predates the 14th Amendment. Now, if you're a follower of the show, if you're a study of the PAC information, you understand what it's talking about, all right? All these arguments and everything that's going on, there's nothing going to change up there in the federal constitution, all right? And that's what all you citizens fall under. They're going to make the changes here at the local constitutions and level. Well, that is the proper and true republic. That's also where your common law is found. And if you're a citizen, I'm sorry, you do not have access to that because your constitution is the federal government's constitution. It is not you and I. Okay? So these are some things you have to keep in reminder. The alterations of state constitution is at this level of common law marriage being recognized. Nothing more. And it will allow or open the door for same-sex couples to get a legally recognized license to marry. My question to you is, why would you ever want one? After reading the information to follow, and you still answer yes to wanting a license, then so be it. At least you will understand fully the contract you are entering into. Yes, it is a contract. Remember also what privilege/permission a master grants to a slave can also be taken away. A good place to start, I provided a link here. If you wanted to start, read a little bit more on that, you can find that just by doing a search for marriage license, and you'll find several different links out there, and it's a pretty unusual link. I do have a caller with a question before we go any further. 514, you there? Oh,
not a question, it's just me.
Oh, that's you, dear? Okay,
yeah,
that's
just
weird.
me.
All right, a little question mark came up. That's weird. First time that ever popped up on the board. All right, I'm putting you back on the mute side. Alrighty. There was a pamphlet put out by Pastor Matt Trewhella. That's Trewhella. And it's been around for a very long time. Actually been around over 10 years. And for many, this is all you're going to need to hear. We're going to go and read this pamphlet that this pastor put out. Now, yes, it has a lot of religious tones to it, but that's okay. Even if you're not a Christian, even if you're not talking about the religious side of things, the information within, in regards to the law, is what we're going to focus on. And this is going to help you, and it's very important, especially if you are a Christian. You're going to want to hear this and even do a search for it and maybe read it more than once. And it's simply, it's a pamphlet. Just put in marriage license pamphlet, and you'll find a link for it. It's been around for a long time. And it's titled 5 Reasons Why Christians Should Not Obtain a State Marriage License. And we're going to read this pamphlet for you here. Every year, thousands of Christians amble down to their local county courthouse and obtain a marriage license from the state in order to marry their future spouse. They do this unquestionably. They do it because their pastor has told them to go get one. And besides, everybody else gets one. This pamphlet attempts to answer the questions, why should we not get one? Number one, the definition of a license demands that we not obtain one to marry. We look at Black's Law Dictionary, defines license as the permission by competent authority to do an act which without such permission would be illegal. We need to ask ourselves, why should it be illegal to marry without the state's permission? More importantly, why should we need the state's permission to participate in something which God instituted? Genesis 2:18-24. We should not need the state's permission to marry, nor should we grovel before state officials to seek it. What if you apply and the state says no? You must understand that the authority to license implies the power to prohibit. A license, by definition, confers a right to do something. The state cannot grant the right to marry. It is a God-given right. Number two, when you marry with a marriage license, you grant the state jurisdiction over your marriage. When you marry with a marriage license, your marriage is a creature of the state. It is a corporation of the state. Therefore, they have jurisdiction over your marriage, including the fruit of your marriage. Well, what is the fruit of your marriage? Your children and every piece of property you own. There is plenty of case law in American jurisprudence which declares this to be true. Hope you're hearing this, folks, and it's starting to wake up and piss you off. In 1993, parents were upset here in Wisconsin because a test was being administered to their children in the governmental schools, which was very invasive of the family's privacy. When parents complained, they were shocked by the school bureaucrats who informed them that their children were required to take the test by law and that they would have to take the test because they, the government school, had jurisdiction over their children. When parents asked the bureaucrats what gave them jurisdiction, the bureaucrats answered, your marriage license and their birth certificates. Judicially and in increasing fashion, practically, your state marriage license has far-reaching implications. We think so little about this, folks, all right? Because just because everybody else is doing it, hey, if everybody else jumped off the damn bridge, you're going to follow them? Remember that old saying? We need to get back to that in everything we do. Time and time again for the last 4 years on the radio, I've been telling you, anything that requires a signature is a contract, and this is no different. And if you're already in a marriage contract, there is a way, just like correcting your status and all, there is a way for you to lawfully break that contract. And I recommend you do it today. Because it's going to get a lot worse. And let's keep going. Number 3. When you marry with a marriage license, you place yourself under a body of law which is immoral. By obtaining a marriage license, you place yourself under the jurisdiction of family court, which is governed by unbiblical and immoral laws. Under these laws, you can divorce for any reason. Often the court side with the spouse who is in rebellion to God and castigates the spouse who remains faithful by ordering him or her not to speak about the Bible or other matters of faith when present with the children. As a minister, I cannot, in good conscience, perform a marriage which would place people under this immoral body of laws. I also cannot marry someone with a marriage license because to do so, I have to act as an agent of the state. I would have to sign the marriage license, and I would have to mail it into the state, given the state's demand to usurp the place of God and family regarding marriage, and given its unbiblical and moral laws to govern marriage, and would be an act of treason for me to do so. Let me also tell you, folks, all right, everybody who knows anything about me, I'm an ordained minister. Whoop-de-friggin' do. Guess what? The state wanted me to register my license with them to perform marriages. I told the state, shove it up your ass. I will marry whom I choose, when I choose, and will not marry them if they have a state license. Because quite frankly, a marriage is nothing more than two witnesses and me, if I'm whoever's performing the ceremony, acts as the main witness. And you're taking your vows not to a person, not to me, but to each other in the presence of your Creator, whoever that may be. The state has nothing to do with this, folks. And until you get that understanding, and until you realize how corrupt and how far-reaching into every aspect of your life, I'm afraid you're never going to wake up. And things are never going to change. It's only going to get worse. Number 4, the marriage license invades and removes God-given parental authority. When you read the Bible, you see that God intended for children to have their father's blessing regarding whom they married. Daughters were to be given in marriage by their fathers. That's Deuteronomy 22:16 and also Exodus 22:17. 1 Corinthians 7:38. We have a vestige of this in our culture today, and that the father takes his daughter to the front of the altar, and the minister asks, who gives this woman to be married to this man? Historically, there was no requirement to obtain a marriage license in colonial America. When you read the laws of the colonies and then the states, you see only 2 requirements for marriage. First, you had to obtain your parents' permission to marry. And second, you had to post public notice of the marriage 5 to 15 days before the ceremony. Notice you had to obtain your parents' permission. Back then, you saw godly government displayed in that the state recognized the parents' authority by demanding that the parents' permission be obtained. Today, the all-encompassing ungodly state demands that their permission be obtained to marry. By issuing marriage licenses, the state is saying, you don't need your parents' permission, you need our permission. If parents are opposed to their children's marrying a certain person and refuse to give their permission, the child can do an end run around the parents' authority by obtaining the state's permission and marry anyway. This is an invasion and removal of God given parental authority by the state. Number 5. When you marry with a marriage license, you are like a polygamist. From the state's point of view, when you marry with a marriage license, you are not just marrying your spouse, but you are also marrying the state. The most blatant declaration of this fact that I have ever found is a brochure entitled, "With This Ring I Thee Wed." It is found in county courthouses across Ohio, where people go to obtain their marriage licenses. It is published by the Ohio State Bar Association. The opening paragraph under the subtitle, "Marriage Vows," states, actually, when you repeat your marriage vows, you enter into a legal contract. There are 3 parties to that contract. 1, you. 2, your husband or wife, as the case may be. And 3, the state of Ohio. See? The state and the lawyers know that when you marry with a marriage license, you are not just marrying your spouse. You are marrying the state. You are like a polygamist. You are not just making a vow to your spouse, but you are making a vow to the state and your spouse. You are also giving undue jurisdiction to that state. When does the state have jurisdiction over a marriage? God intended the state to have jurisdiction over a marriage for 2 reasons. 1, in the case of divorce. And 2, when crimes are committed. Adultery, bigamy, etc. Unfortunately, the state now allows divorce for any reason, and it does not prosecute for adultery. In either case, divorce or crime, a marriage license is not necessary for the courts to determine whether a marriage exists or not. What is needed are witnesses. This is why you have a best man and a maid of honor. They should sign the marriage certificate in your family Bible, and the wedding day guest book should be kept. Marriage was instituted by God. Therefore, it is a God-given right. According to Scripture, it is to be governed by the family, and the state only has jurisdiction in the case of divorce or crime. You know, folks, you don't need a marriage license to prove that you're married. Your family Bible, a record signed by 2 or more people stating, yes, you were married, is all it takes to prove anything in a court of law. And it is recognized as such. You go to you want to go even one trick further and run around licenses and all that? Real simple. Go and check into any hotel in Vegas as Mr. and Mrs. And guess what? If you sign the registry of that hotel as Mrs. and Mrs., you are by law, by the laws of the state of Nevada, you are legally married. But you didn't know that one, did you? I've seen cases on that involving that particular incident, where people checked in as husband and wife, not thinking anything of it, went out to have a good time weekend or whatever. And many, many years later, when they finally do find the mate that they want to go and marry, and they go and register and get a license and all this stuff, it comes back, sorry, you're already married. Be like, what? I never got married in my life. Yeah, you registered at such and such a hotel on this date as Mr. and Mrs. That's a lawful contract and binding contract. You are married. And you actually have to get a divorce. So please do not do that. The madness never ends, folks. Anyway, the history of marriage license in America. Even George Washington was married without a marriage license. So how did we come to this place in America where marriage licenses are issued? Historically, all the states in America had laws outlawing the marriage of blacks and whites. In the mid-1800s, certain states began allowing interracial marriages or miscongeniation as long as those marrying received a license from the state. In other words, they had to receive permission to do an act which without such permission would have been illegal. Black's Law Dictionary points to this historical fact when it defines marriage license as a license or permission granted by public authority to a person who intend to intermarry. Intermarry is defined in Black Law's Dictionary as miscegenation? Miscellaneous genation? Ah, man, what a real word that is. miscegenation. Mixed or interracial marriage. Boy, tongue twister there to say. Excuse me. All right. Give a state an inch and they will take 100 miles, folks. As one elderly woman once said to me, 10,000 miles. Not long after these licenses were issued, some states began requiring all people who marry to obtain a marriage license. In 1923, the federal government established the Uniform Marriage and Marriage License Act. They later established the Uniform Marriage and Divorce Act. By 1929, every state in the Union had adopted marriage license laws. So the question is, what should we do? Christian couples should not be marrying with state marriage license, nor should ministers be marrying people with state marriage license. Some have said to me, if someone is married without a marriage license, then they aren't really married. Given the fact that states may soon legalize same-sex marriages, we need to ask ourselves, if a man and a man marry with a state marriage license and a man and a woman marry without a state marriage license, who's really married? Is it the two men with a marriage license or the man and woman without a marriage license? In reality, this contention that people are not really married unless they obtain a marriage license simply reveals how boy, I can't speak tonight, we are in our thinking. We need to think biblically. As for homosexuals marrying, outlaw sodomy as God's law demands, and there will be no threat of sodomites marrying. Not my opinion, folks. Not saying I agree or disagree. This is coming from the pamphlet. You should not have to obtain a license from the state to marry someone any more than you should have to obtain a license from the state to be a parent, which some in academic and legislative circles are currently pushing to be made law. That's right, folks. They're pushing to tell you when you can and cannot have a child. Oh, they'll never do that. Really? You ever heard of a place called China? Guess what? They're limited to a maximum of 2 children per family. If you have a third, guess what, folks? You just broke the law. When I marry a couple, I always buy them a family Bible, which contains birth and death records and a marriage certificate. We record the marriage in the family Bible. What's recorded in a family Bible will stand up as legal evidence in any court of law in America. Early Americans were married without a marriage license. They simply recorded their marriages in their family Bibles. So should we. The pastor has been marrying couples without marriage license for 10 years. Many other pastors also refuse to marry couples with state marriage license. I am one of those. This pamphlet is not comprehensive in scope. Rather, the purpose of this pamphlet is to make you think and give you a starting point to do further study of your own. You can actually get an audio seminar on this particular matter. And there's also websites that you can find a link for. Just simply put in marriage license pamphlet, and you should be able to find a link for that without a problem. It's not that hard. All right. That's the end of the pamphlet. Now some will argue, well, I can't get, this is my wording, folks. Now some will argue, well, I can't get medical coverage for a spouse without it. Really? Have you ever tried? I worked in the medical insurance field with Prudential, now owned by Aetna, that have been writing policies for significant others for many years, long before the gay and lesbian movement even came about. All right? So again, it's just an excuse. The next common argument is on taxes. Well, at the end of the year, I can't check married, filing jointly or individually. Really? Again, have you ever tried? Common law is recognized and becomes lawful after 7 years. So avoid any legal conflict. Simply check the box married, but filing individually instead of jointly. You will end up with about the same benefit. However, if you're a studier of PAC, which is us, People's Awareness Coalition, then this is a moot issue anyways. You will see any so-called arguments only comes out due to lack of knowledge, nothing more. And whom in their right mind would ever want to begin their new life with the one they love, in bed with a third party, the state. Remember the Ohio Bar Association? When you repeat your marriage vows, you enter into a legal contract. There are 3 parties to that contract: you, your spouse, and the state of Ohio. The state is a party to the contract because under its laws, you have certain obligations and responsibilities to each other, to any children you may have, and to Ohio. In other states, the contract says it's party to the fruits of your contract. Well, what are those fruits? Your children, folks. Your children, your property, your car, everything. And they, the state, have a vested interest in them. And I end this with saying, I thank you for your time, and I hope this has opened your eyes so that you can now make an informed decision whether or not to license. I posted that this morning also up there on my ATS site just to see what kind of responses as I would get. And I started to look through the recently posted information over there. And it turns out, because of everything going on in the Supreme Court, there were several threads on the topic. None of them covered that aspect. All day I waited to see if I was going to get a response. All day long, other than the very first response I got, which was a star and a flag and a thumbs up. Okay? And one quick line. He simply put in, no license. This article covers all you need to know, from health to taxes. Thank you. God bless. There you go. It was straightforward. No reason for anybody else to even compliment on it, which is quite the norm for my threads, actually. I get the thumbs up, the stars, the flags. If anybody's ever searched me out on ATS, will often see that, well, for the blog, for the threads that are still up that they haven't deleted. You will more often see that I'm outflagged compared to the amount of comments that are made. Because really, I sum it up so well that, other than giving me a thumbs up or saying way to go, what else are you going to add to it? There's not much you can add to it, folks. And that's the fact of the matter. So I get the flags and the stars and very few comments, and nothing wrong with that. I'm grateful for that, actually. It's a compliment to me. It means I'm doing my job correctly. Shout out there to the guest over in the Blog Talk Radio land, and I appreciate you being here this evening with us, as well as those that are listening over and hanging out on the freedomreigns.us. We're at the top of the hour. There's no calls and no further comments, no questions in the chat room. So I'm going to end our show a little early tonight. I hope you enjoyed the information. Please look it up yourselves. See if you can, do a quick search. You will find those links, especially on marriage. It's such a big focus right now with the Supreme Court and everything that's going on there. Everybody enjoy the rest of your evening and this early spring. We will be back tomorrow night at our regular time. Until then, God bless. Be safe.